And welcome back to the Stan Simpson Show. We are continuing our conversation with Education Commissioner Stefan Pryor. We'll talk now about funding equity. I had a column about hard-hitting New Britain, Connecticut, where I live, and boy, the folks got upset there. Yes. All I said, Commissioner, was that it's time for a state takeover. It's time to change the government and give the mayor more power. That's all I said. They went crazy. High school is ranked 171st out of 191 schools. They're the worst third-grade reading scores. It's been a 10-year slide. Yeah. They say, you know what, it's not our fault. There's not equity. We're not getting the money from the state. We're a poor district. So let's talk about equity. Why can't a city like, let's put New Britain on the map right now. Yes. Why can't, how can we fix New Britain and get them the money and equity they need to get things done?
Well, we know that that funding is a necessary but not a sufficient condition for success in schools. Some of the best funded urban school systems and other school systems in this country perform at the lowest levels in their states. That's just not just a Connecticut thing. That's true, again, across the country. Right. It's important to have the resources necessary to carry out the reforms, but you do need to have the reforms as well. You do need to have the measures in place to improve student learning. Yes, and the leadership. So what we've done under the governor's leadership is we've proposed a system in which the vast majority of new funding does go to the lowest performing school districts, the highest poverty districts.
Is New Britain on that radar?
It is certainly on that list.
Yeah, you're sure about that?
I am positive.
I'm having them on next week.
I checked that list and I knew what show I was coming to, Stan. And there's 30 districts that are on that list. The lowest performing 30 out of the 166 districts of this state receive $40 million of the $50 million that have been added to the pot. Even during these tough economic times, the governor has allocated $40 million for our lowest performing, highest poverty districts. But what we've said is these districts need to be in an alliance with the state. They become alliance districts. And what these alliance districts need to do is they need to lay out reform efforts that we know will improve student performance based upon track records from right within the state and across the country. They need to tier their schools and have different strategies for schools at different performance levels. They need to extend time where students are coming from the furthest behind. Longer school days, longer school years, Saturday academies to help students catch up.
And they're going to ask you, not to cut you off, they're going to say, okay, Christian, is there money for that too?
Well, that's what the new money is for.
Okay,
Now, you don't have to do all of the above, but a district has to develop a strategy and present it to the state and say, here's how we're going to turn around our performance, and here's how we're going to use our resources. And then they're off to the races.
All right, because they're on next week, so I'm going to make sure they know about that.
Please ask them about that.
Other issues on your priority. Now, pre-K. Obviously, pre-K is a huge problem. We know that third-grade reading scores, you can measure success by that. What's going to happen with pre-K? Will money be set aside? And why don't all these towns have universal pre-K? Why do some have it, some don't? It should be, it seems to me, a universal thing.
Well, first of all, Governor Malloy is a pioneer in the area of early childhood education. As mayor of Stamford, he was one of the leaders in the effort to move towards universal pre-K and was very innovative in his implementation. We're following that precedent and others that exist in this state. We have some of the best scholars of early childhood right here in Connecticut. We're just not getting it done. So the governor said we're going to put a down payment on that, even in these tough economic times. We're going to fund 500 slots in the programs that already exist. The four walls exist, the classrooms exist, the teachers exist, but the slots are unfunded. We need to fund those slots to expand the number of students in them.
Is 500 enough?
Well, it's not enough. It's a down payment, but it's what we can do without any additional capital investment. We don't have to expand facilities. We don't have to create whole new classrooms. We can get this done within the constraints of the existing system. We can do it quickly, and we can move on in future years to enable further expansion. We want to set the precedent. We're not saying the job is done, not by a long shot.
Right, but okay, how about charter school? You're the charter school king. You came here, you were one of the founders of Amistad, one of the great schools I've seen as far as just
Thank you very much. Thank you. And I also worked in the conventional school system, the Board of Ed system, proudly so, in New York City. So I just want to know that I come from both traditions.
Right, but you got branded as a charter school king. In fact, I think I branded you that.
I'm proud of that as well.
So now people came and say, he's a charter school guy. He's going to be favoring charter school. Is there conflict of interest? Will he lean toward charter schools when push comes to shove? And your response is what?
Well, I think the proof is in the pudding. We've established an agenda that offers resources across the board for effective schools and for effective practices in our educational system. So $40 or $50 million of our program goes to the districts of our state, the Board of Ed governed conventional school systems of our state that need a boost in performance. We've increased funding for magnet schools that are proving themselves effective. We've aimed for improvements in our talent system, our professional talent system for principals and teachers.
So you're following what works.
So we're doing all of the above, and definitively we are providing for additional funding to provide to provide equity to charter schools that are inequitably funded in this state. We have one of the most fragile funding formulas for charter schools in the United States. We are one of only 2 states, the other being Hawaii, that requires an annual appropriation on a separate line item for charter schools, even though, as you've pointed out many times, charter schools, the most effective charter schools, are the best, among the best, in closing the achievement gap, not only in Connecticut but around the country. The best models can get it done. We've got to support them adequately.
Here's 30 seconds left, but the knock now on charter schools and magnet schools, they say that, okay, but they're not getting their fair share of ELL students, second language students.
Right.
They're not getting their fair share of special ed students. So you're getting some of the quote-unquote good kids, that it's sort of a bells and whistle, it's smoke and mirrors. They're just creaming from the top, and they're not dealing with some of the more challenging students. Your response to that as well?
One of the things that we've done in our bill is, in addition to seeking funding equity for charter schools, and the job is not done yet on that point either, Stan. There's been some pushback on that, and we're still moving in that direction in the course of this legislative session. We've got to get that done. But we've also provided for new requirements that charter schools reach out especially to students who are in our priority student population pools, including students who are struggling in school and demonstrating discipline issues, including lowest performing students, including English language learners, including special education students, students who ought to be our point of emphasis in terms of providing a quality education. So we've provided in our new process that charter schools need to demonstrate a plan to recruit these students into our schools.
Are you confident it will still work as a charter school person? Are you confident that they will still be successful if they have to include more?
Yes, and it has to.
Okay, we'll come back. All right, you ended that very concisely because it's time to go to the third segment now. That's pretty good, Commissioner. We come back now. We'll be joined by 2 education reformers who will express their thoughts about the sluggish pace of education reform here in Connecticut. Remember, watch the show 24/7, ctnow.com/Stan. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Don't go away.